Okay. Good evening, Chavra. I don't think we have any corrections from yesterday's year, which is the first, so Shechana for that. We're going to start from the Mishnah on top of Yitesem Aleph, and we're going to go to the end of the parak. But as Hashem, it's two full blot. We're going to try to do this in 45 minutes, but anyone who has to leave, Mishnah Akpadas. Mishnah. Then somebody who lives in the city goes to a walled city, and the reverse. If he's going to eventually end up, and we're going to discuss what that means exactly. If he's going to end up in his own place, then he should lane like his place in the other place. But if not, he should lane with them. From where does a person have to lane the Megillah in order to be Yaitza? Three machlekes, and we wasn't discussed like we had this machlekes before. Part of it that you have to, the Megillah has to be complete, but the question is where you start landing from. That's only if you come to return the leil yadada, but ain't iman. So if you are in. If he has to lane with the 15. So if he plans on hanging out until afterwards, so even if he cannot lane on the 14th, that's the part. If he does not plan on going back home, he cannot lane on the 14th in the krach. He has to lane on the 15th with the krach. Yeah. The pasuk says the guys who live in the city, in the unwalled cities, they lane on the 14th. So if they're guys from the unwalled city, obviously they live in the unwalled city. If someone's on the 14th, if someone is on the 14th, if someone's on the 14th, even though he doesn't live there. If someone's in an unwalled city on the 14th, he has to lane on the 14th. Again, I made a mistake before. Again, if someone is going to be, if a guy who lives in Yerushalayim, which is a walled city, is in, let's say, Bnei Brak, on the 14th by day, he has to lane right then. He has to lane on the 14th. He cannot say, I'm going to go back home later in the afternoon and lane. I didn't say it right before. So again, if he wants to lane on the 15th, then he has to leave before Leis Shachar of the 14th. And if he doesn't, then the night before he also has to lane. If he's going to leave later, he doesn't have to lane the night before. He can lane only on the 15th. If you leave the night of the 14th before Leis Shachar, and the machlekes some say even after Leis Shachar, but before the Zman from Leis Shachar till you call in the Megillah. So let's say 40 minutes after Leis Shachar. Yeah. What? The Ikam Bechil is by day. Yeah, we had that before, and we're going to see it again. Now I brought you a raya that a parus for 1 day is considered a parus. How do I know the other way that a guy who's mukaf for 1 day is considered mukaf chama? And then I saw mid the president ben yamin karu parus mukaf ben yamin karu mukaf. If a guy in old cities 1 day, the same idea. Again, we don't have the pasuk by mukaf chama, but we have the svara. Amar ben kfar shahalach leir a villager, so he is allowed to pre-lane the Megillah, right? He's allowed to lane. We had in the first Mishnah Yafi basic Gimel. Benkach Kari Iman. Regardless, he has to lane with them. So, for example, if he ends up in a big city, if he knows he's spending Purim in the big city, right? Let's say that he's going to his parents for Purim. He knows his Yudah is in the big city, but he goes already the 13th. And all his buddies come into town on the 13th, because 13th is Monday, let's say, for example. Let's say Yudala is Tuesday. So all his friends come in for Monday, they lane on Monday. They have a big thing. He cannot lane with them. He can lane, but he can't be Yetzer with them. Now, there's Machlekes of Rashi that learns that he already lane with them, he slaz the Chiv. Again, it's that Pashas, even if he lanes on Yud Aleph and he comes to Purim on the 14th, he has to lane on the 14th. Why? My timer. Halkibnei Ha'ir, Ba'il Mikri. Because he's supposed to make a radin lane on the 14th day of other. That's his mitzvah. The Rabbanu who the iklu al akvam show yisab kamayim kadesh yisab kamayim was not really kadei. It's kivan show yisab kamayim wasn't lachem shbekrachem. So therefore they're making them hani the case of beduchte. That's very nice when he's in his place. So when he's in his village on the 14th, then he has this p'tur of you can lane earlier. But if he's going to be in the big city, he has to land in the city again, even if he already lane on the 11th or 12th or 13th, because he was home. He was home on the 12th. He lane Megillah. He comes to the 14th. There's no heter for him. The only heter was because he was over there. We don't have to make him shut in. He shut in anyway, so you have to lane. We learned the Brisa that says the Benkach goes to a city. Benkach could it be? So this is the kasha on Rava, right? Because Rava says no, he didn't finish the kasha. Yeah, Benkach we already have in the Mishnah that it's totally on where he's going to be by Bayan, whether he's going to go back home in time for Megillah. Elalav bar kfar must be the Brisa meant bar kfar, because it can't be arguing directly on the Mishnah. So it must be that it's kfar. Benkach he lanes wherever he is. Right? The problem is it's a kasha on Rava. Rava answers, you just came up with your own taretz and you finagle the Brisa to fit that it doesn't share with the Mishnah. So finagle the end of the Brisa also. Today Karni Man, so lane. So change the end of the Brisa also. You can't ask me kasha from a Brisa that you yourself changed. This we said in the Mishnah from where does a person have to start laning? This is a fourth sheet. The Mishnah says 3 sheets from the whole thing, or Ishihudi, or Ma'achadar Ma'elav has a fourth sheet, and from a Brisa, from a Laila, who another Dashnas Amelach. All 4 sheets are from the same pasuk. That the Vatichtav as Malkum Mordechai Yehudi as called Taikev. They use this word taikev, which means strength. So she wrote the letter. Mordechai and Esther Mordechai wrote this letter about the kol taikev of, and it says Mikra Megillah. That's the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah. Manda Amakulu Tak V'Shalach Achashverosh. What's a taikev? The strength of Achashverosh, which starts his gvura, his whole thing, his reign. Manda Amar Ishihudi Tak V'Shal Mordechai. The strength of Mordechai when he got Ishihudi his. It raises him up that he's Mishnah Malach, that he was it talks about Mordechai and his godless. The pinnacle point of Haman. That's Achashverosh lifted Haman to power. The is the oomph of the nace, the shift of the nace, the high point of the nace. What did they do and why did they act? What did they see and act like this and what happened to them? It says the whole Megillah Mara Achashverosh and Ishtamish became Beis Hamikdash. Al Kacha Mishum Dechashiv. Right? Why did he? What did he see that he saw it was fit to use the Beis Hamikdash? Al Kacha, because of this Mishum Dechashiv Shanav Lei Iprik. He thought that 70 years are up and we didn't get redeemed, so therefore he decided to dance around with to show off the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash. And what happened to the Kata Rashi? Vashti, not Rashi. What did Mordechai see? To Chepa Haman, Al Kacha, what he see, the Shavei Nafshei Avadzar, because Haman made himself Avadzar, he refused to bow down. And what happened to him? This happened to him because what he did was the Shema. Why did he get upset and start shepherding all the Jews? Mordechai didn't bow and was Lashon Asid. That he saw that he will never bow. So he saw he's a lost case. It's not like right now he's holding out, but soon he's going to give in. He knew that he's stubborn, he's steadfast. What happened to him? Him and his sons got hanged. Why did he bring this Sefer Hazachenis al Kacha? There's Minte Esther Lahaman Bahadei, because we had yesterday tomorrow, that he got nervous because Esther was inviting Haman to parties. So that triggered this thought. Now, and because of that, the nays happened. Even the man the Amran that hold the other sheet is the Chari is talking about all 3 sheetas, it still has to be it still has to be a complete Megillah. We had this earlier. Megillah Nikras Sefer Nikras Igaris. It's the Megillah is referred by two different names in the Megillah itself. It's called a Sefer and it's called an Igaris. Nikras Sefer Shem Tafra B'Chutei Pishtam Psula. It has to be Begidim. It has to be sewn with animal sinews, but not with other materials. Not with plant-based materials. The Nikras Igaris Shem Hitel B'Shleish Chutei Gidin Kashera. Because if it's only tied in three places, then it is kosher. A sefer Torah has to be tied from top to bottom, minus a little bit on top, minus a little bit on bottom, so that there's a little give. But Megillah is called an Igar, so if it's just patched together, it's also okay. But it has to be evenly spaced. It can't just be that you put 1, 1, 1, and then the whole bottom is waving around like that. If you open up a ksuvim from ArtScroll or any other publishing company and you start reading part of ksuvim, you relay Megillah. Not that you're leaning agav. It's not a din in Lashma. It's a din in the sefer. The sefer has to be miyuchad for Megillah. Has to be nikar that's Megillah. If there's a little space, so it looks a little different. The print layout is a little bit different on the page. Then it's okay because then it's nicker that it's its own situation and it's not a problem of just that it's part of ksuvim. Less lamba, it's not an issue. Levi Bashmul have a kakari kamei the Rav Yehuda b'Megillah aksuvim and aksuvim. Levi was it Levi? Yeah, Levi Bashmul used to lay in front of Yehuda. Amarlei Hare Amru Hakari Megillah aksuvim and aksuvim lo yatsa. So you see, Rav Yehuda reprimanded Levi from laning. Megillah that's part of ksuvim. I'm Rabbi Chia Bar Abba. I'm Rabbi Yechon and Akari Megillah ksuvim and ksuvim lo yatsa. He says he reaffirms this. But he bops it on the head, which means he weakens his psak. But tzibur that's dafka in a tzibur. But in a yachid you are allowed to, because the whole din of a tzibur is pasumei nisa, and you're lacking a pasumei nisa when you're reading. You're just learning on a shir. You happen to be learning ksuvim now, and it happens to be param, so you happen to be reading Megillah. It's not nicker that you're learning it for the nays, but for yourself, you're not really in the parsha of. So it's not a problem. Shir hatefa halacha. This idea to leave space by a sefer Torah is halacha Moshe Sinai. Again, the only relevance here is that it's the same amira and the same idea that he says it's simple halacha. It's not a get to Megillah necessarily. But he bopped it on the head, which means he lowered the status of Azalacha. He said it's not really Alacha Mishum Sinai. It's the Chachamim who guys that it should not rip. The Sefer Torah should not rip. Therefore, I give a little give. So why? Because if I'm tightening the Sefer Torah and I see that the tops are starting to separate, I know that it's too tight. I'm going to stop rolling. But if it's done all the way to the top, I won't see that until it's too late. I'm going to pop the Sefer Torah. This is the same Amira, completely different member. If there was a space, now Moshe and Eliyahu did not stand at the same time, but they were standing in the same cave, different points in history. When Hakadosh Baruch Hu passed by the cave, and he covered it with his hand. If there was any sort of hafsek or any sort of opening, like a thin needle, then they would not have been able to withstand before Hakadosh Baruch Hu's light. A person will not see me and be able to live. And they explain that it's even before the sight, even like when it's coming close, they were already plants. Another member might have said, "This is talking about the luchais. It's Mamet Hasharo Hakadosh Baruch Hu L'Moshe Dekdukei Torah Dekdukei Seifrim Masha Seifrim Asidim Lechadesh. All the ribuyim in the psukim, all the things that we learned, our whole Talmud of all the diukim in the Torah is also that's on the diukim. Umasha Seifrim Asidim Lechadesh Maniu Mikra Megillah. They were Mechadesh Mikra Megillah. Look, they're much like Hakol Shem because it's a Megillah Chutz. Mechadesh Shaitz B'Katan. Abiyud Machshe B'Katan. Abiyud says by Katan it's kosher. That sounds like it's b'diavad. We're going to discuss this in a minute. It sounds from the ratio that it's even a cheresh is not even b'diavad yaitza. Amar of Maser Yasi, the Tanan HaKaresh Mavalei Shmiel Aznai Yatza. That's a Tanakam Rabbi Yasi Amar Lo Yatza. If you link Krishman, you can't hear what you're saying. You're not yaitza. According to Tanakam Rabbi Yasi, you are yaitza. I'm sorry, don't forget. Rabbi says Lo Yatza. Remind Rabbi Yasi, he learns it out. And the Gemara Rachas learns it out. It says Shema Yisrael. Shmiya Azlach Masha Amar Masha Yatzim Picha, something like that. How do we know that it's Rabbi Yasi? And even b'diavad, it's also not good. Maybe the Mishnah is only talking about the Rabban. Again, you asked the question, who's this Tana that says b'diavad is not good? Really, it's not good. So we said this is Rabbi Yasi. But maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda that says it's not good, but b'diavad it's okay. And with the Gemara, let's talk about why. Because it says cheresh v'katan. So it's all three are in the same, have the same status. So a shaita and a katan for not, and katan the Mishnah itself ends off Rabbi Yehuda machshir v'katan, which means that the Tanakh is so holds that a katan is not good even with the chayyim. No, maybe say no. The charesh as it is. In other words, the charesh v'diavad is good, and the charesh v'katan is even v'diavad not good. If the ending the Mishnah says, but Rabbi Yehuda says different, then obviously the Mishnah Sefer is not Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe the whole thing is Rabbi Yehuda. What do you mean? Tanakama says it's puzzle by Katan and Rabbi Yehuda's Maksha. And there's a lot more going on here that we didn't see it. This is how the Mishnah should read. That's talking about 5 or 6 year old. That does not, or 6 or 7 year old. That does not. It did not hit chinuch. Even lechatchila would work for the Gemara case. So let's analyze. So you want to, that's not the Mishnah that it's Rabbi Yehuda, and b'diavad you are yaitza. You told me in the ratio, right? Welcome to Rabbi Yehuda b'diavad, right? Because in the Sefer we said that Rabbi Yehuda is machshir afilu lechatchila v'katan. So talking about in the ratio. Rabbi Yehuda the Aval Ha the Tani Yehuda Brei the Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi Cheresh Amadaber ve'Ein Shemei Atayim Lechatchila Mani. Now you said our Mishnah is b'diavad. You said our Mishnah is talking about b'diavad according to Rabbi Yehuda. So we have another member. We have another Bryce. It's not really. It's an Amayra. An Amayra that says Cheresh Amadaber ve'Ein Shemei Atayim Lechatchila. He could that a Cheresh can do truma Lechatchila. Who's a shita at Zicher? Now, so we're going to explain. Rabbi Yehuda diavad in Lechatchila night. We just said Yehuda holds that's only with the Evid. Rabbi Yasi the Evid Nami. Yehuda says Rabbi Yasi says even the Evid doesn't work. Elamai Rabbi Yehuda afi lechatchila. So Elamai, let's say that Rabbi Yehuda is talking about even lechatchila in the ratio. Elaha the Tanya. So now let's understand this. If we're going to say that Rabbi Yehuda is our mission, and it says Hakol Shem because it's a Megillah Daf. So how does that work? This is only lechatchila. No, the Yehuda in the Sefer is talking about lechatchila. Again, so Rabbi Yehuda holds. Oh, Elamai. Rabbi Yehuda it's Rabbi Yehuda that the Tana is Rabbi Yasi. The Tana is Rabbi Yasi. That's b'diavad because the Mishnah is clearly b'diavad. Then Rabbi Yehuda holds when he holds a katan is kosher. It's even lechatchila. Elahad the Tani lo yivarach adam berachas hamazon b'libay then birech yatza. That a person should not lay in Birchas Hamazon without by heart. But if he, not by heart, but without enunciating the words. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda. It sounds like Rabbi Yehuda. Again, Rabbi Yehuda, he's going to argue and he's going to say that a cheresh is kosher lechatchila. So that means that our mission that this memra of a Birchas Hamazon she doesn't feel like Rabbi Yehuda again. We said that Rabbi Yehuda holds the cheresh is mutter lechatchila. No, it's not the Reish of the Mishnah. Reish of the Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi. And again, the Birchas Hamazon says the Chetchila lo lav, but the Eved it's okay. So it doesn't work. He's saying if he had his own shita, and he also sometimes quoted his Rabbi. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda, I remember Shem Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Kodesh Shema Tzarach Sheisham La'aznai Shenem Hashma Yisrael Shem Ken Hashem Echad. Hashma La'aznacha Masha Tamaitzi B'Picha. You should hear what you're saying out of your mouth. Which means to tell you, Acha Kavanas Alev Hein Advarim. That just your kavana, just your thoughts on the words is good enough. So this is a big introduction. Rabbi Meir is new. This is a new shita. So the asisa the hachi afilu tema Rabbi Yehuda k'Rabbi Sirlei v'hada Tana Yehuda b'Reb Shimon ben Pazi Rabbi Meir. This Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi that said that you could do Tayim lechatchila. We try and figure out who it is, and we have to figure out that it's Rabbi Yehuda who said the Chetchila, then it doesn't stem with this, doesn't stem with that. It could be that our mission is really in Rabbi Yehuda, who says B'diavad, it's not good. If B'diavad, it is good. Like who? Like his Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And this memra of Hatayim Truma Lechatchila is in Rabbi Meir. Very good. If Rabbi Yehuda Makshir Mekatan Tanya Amar Rabbi Yehuda Katan Hayisi, I was a Katan Ukrisi al Malam Rabbi Tarfon was getting below. I laned between Rabbi Tarfon and the Zakanim and Lut. I'm like Ein Mavi and Rayim and a Katan. We're not going to believe what you remember as a Katan. Chada, I'm sorry, skipped. Amar like Ein Mavi and Rayim. I'm sorry. Tanya Amar Rabbi Katan Hayisi Ukrisi al Malam Rabbi Yehuda. I landed from Rabbi Yehuda, and this is a few generations later, obviously, because Rabbi was a kid. Don't bring a right from the matter. In other words, he holds like that, but no one else holds like that. So it's not a right, that's halacha. He held it, that's he let you lie. So Rabbi was also a katan. So why did they tell him? They tell him he's a katan. First of all, you get the katan. They told him both. Even if you were older, Rabbi Yehuda was one of his matter. I don't care that he let you lane. It doesn't. Everyone argues on him. It's das yacher. Ain't it's okay. Mishnah ain't as a Megillah v'lay malin. You cannot do milah v'lay tayvel, you cannot be tayvel v'lay maz, and you can't do tayvel is referred to tefillah of a mace, a mace, and of zav. V'lay maz, and you cannot spritz on the 7th day for a mace. V'chin shemeres yom can I get joined. Loy titbal, and so too a yom shemeres yom can I get joined, which is a woman who sees 2 riyas sees for 2 days, up to 2 days. While she's a zava katana, she has to wait 1 clean day. She cannot go to the mikvah that day that she sees. She has to go the next morning. In other words, she cannot go. She sees Sunday, Monday, right? The halacha applies whether she sees 1 day or 2 days. So let's say she sees either Sunday or Sunday, Monday. Okay, Tuesday. Before nates, she cannot go to the mikvah. She can go to the mikvah after nates. Now, she needs a full clean day on Tuesday. So if she sees during that day, she's Zava Gedola, and she has to wait 7 clean days, and all the halachas that apply. But when she's allowed to go to the mikvah, b'chlal that counts. But if we did any of this from Ma'aseh Shachar, you are Yotze B'diavad. You know, in fact, in my heart, when you know that all these halachas apply only after Ma'aseh Shachar by day. By Megillah it says they have to be by Yamim in Niskar Manasim. Because we had our halacha a couple of blot ago. Not really, but only in the beginning. He holds you have to lay it at night and by day. So you see, the Mishnah says you have to lay it by day. And the Gemara no. Ki katani ad yaim. We're talking about the mitzvah of yaim. The mitzvah of yaim cannot be before yaim, and it's not talking about whether there's mitzvah b'layla or not. And it could be that Rav Shimon Levi stems with our Mishnah. On the 8th day you should be imal. Again, it goes by the day. So we make a hekesh tvila tefillah hazah. So the pasuk is written by hazah. We also bring in tefillah in there. Once we establish that all the tefillahs have to be done by day, why should she be special? And the Gemara, it's the that they have a Korea Rishayna Shazav because she's not full-fledged Tameh. She has very interesting halachas. So maybe because she's not a full-fledged Tameh, she should be like Ariya Rishayna Shazav. She doesn't have to wait 7 days. No, because she doesn't have to wait 7 days, maybe she should also have the din of a zav where it comes to the salach of tefillah. Ariya Rishayna Shazav is kish the balkari dechsev zayis taris hazav. That day that he sees carry, he could already go to the mikvah. So too, someone who sees zav once could also go to the mikvah that day again. If he sees afterwards, he loses the mikvah. But the point is, that mikvah has an effect. Maybe she could also wait 1 day. No, she doesn't have to wait 1 day because maybe she should be similar to a zav of 1 riyah because again she does not have to wait 7 days. Why the she can't be titled by day anyway. So it's not a geya. Because she has a din of nida. We're going to see in a second, and she has to go dafka at night. They said so so because the nida only goes to the mikvah at night, so she should also only be able to go to the mikvah at night. And the Gemara belayla miyas laabde miktzas shimar v'tziva k'mashulan. So I would think she has to go at night, but when's she going to go? She's going to go that night. So she sees, let's say Sunday, Monday night, she's going to go. The Gemara says, no, we have to wait till Alois Shachar the next morning, Nates the next morning, Lechatchila. Kivan Bayana Sfira. B'yamamahi, because she has to do Sfira, which is an Indian of day. So that's why she cannot go at night. How do we know that Alois Shachar is also considered a day? Hashem called the day to the light day. So we see that the mayor Uba Kariyim. The mayor Uba Kariyim. Just to the beginning of light he called day, which is Alois Shachar when it's first starting to come over the horizon. That's how you want to play it. So you should say that as soon as the darkness starts coming in, it should also be considered dark. But we learn not like that. If any mitzvah, anything that applies to the night, you have to wait till night mamish. So it should be until when Shkia comes and the night starts first coming in. So we don't say that. So your diak from doesn't really work. We were doing work, and half of them were standing with their on guard, with their swords drawn. From Alois Shachar until Tzeitzei Chavim, the Aimer, the Hayalanu Alayla, the Mishmar, and Ula Mishmar Uliyayim La Vayda Malacha or something like that. Gimel quickly. But the pasuk and so that's the full pasuk. So what do you add by the second pasuk that they worked the whole night, the day, and they stand guard the whole night? The chitim, if you're going to say that the previous pasuk, right, of they stood watch from until Alois Shachar, or they were working from Alois Shachar until Tzeitzei Chavim. Maybe they're not saying when their shift was, they're saying that what they did. So maybe they started before the day and ended after the day. And the Gemara they called the day for malacha, which is from Alois Shachar, and they called the night for watching, which is until Alois Shachar. Okay, very good. Right there. Right, so that's how we know that the Eved from Alois Shachar is also considered yain. Right, the Mishnah right to call yom kasher the kiyas Megillah kiyas how the kiyas shayful and this well the tefillah some musafin themselves will the uluvide haparim. Uluvide haparim is referring to the par on Yom Kippur and the par halom davar uluvide meiser uluvide Yom Kippurim that's talking about the Kain's private power of Yom Kippur, and for the Seir Lazazel, L'Smicha, L'Shchita, L'Tnufa, L'Hagasha, L'Kamitza, L'Aktira, L'Aktaras, L'Malika, L'Kabbalah, L'Azaya. All these are Vaidis in the Beis Hamikdash have to do with Karbanis and Menachais. Yeah, L'Hashkaya Saita, and to make a Saita drink the May Marim. L'Arifas Egla, to do Egla Arufa. With Tahara Mitzayra, and to be Mitara Mitzayra with the Azel grass and the whole procedure over there. Kalalai Kasha. Okay, so that's all during the day. Kalalai Kasha Lektias Haimer, the Aimer that we bring after the day after Pesach, the second day Pesach, first day Chalamayid in Eretz Yisrael, and you have to pick you have to reap the barley the night before. To burn the fats after as part of the end of the carbon process is the hectare chalam meivam. Zaklal, the Mishnah ends off. Call davar shemitzvah b'layla kasher kol halayla. I think I skipped. Yeah, zaklal. Call davar shemitzvah b'yayim kasher kol yayim. Davar shemitzvah b'layla kasher kol halayla. In fact, how do we know that all these things that were during the day, the Amar Cross, we're not going to bring a raya really that these things are done the whole day. We're just going to bring a raya that these things are done during the day. Which some of them we had already, at least one of them. This we had on Megillah. This we had on the previous Mishnah, saying that it has to be done during the day, and it's the same process. Teach you that can be done the whole day. It's not really that it's done the whole day. It's really that it's done by the day. And once I have a mitzvah that it's done by the day, it's l'chayr the whole day. Also, both psukim in Halo. So it's the day. It lists all the karbanos, and it says each one should be done in its day. So it shows that musafin are done by day. The Rabban only instituted tefillas musaf, connected the carbon musaf, so it's the same thing. So therefore, again, what's the kaparim? Oh, it's talking about again. It's talking about Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, on that day I will forgive you. Referring to Yom Kippur. Interesting idea. That's why I think people don't say Tachanun Kos Shkia, because Kapara is only during the day. Then it got a little bit excessive, and people, even if they have it at 1:30 in the afternoon, they also don't say Tachanun by Mencha. And also, I heard that people do not clap by Slach Lanu by Ma'ariv Shmon Esrei because of this idea. Fine. Well, Levi the Meiser was said the last day Pesach on the 4th and 6th year, or something like that. Two out of the 7 years that you have to. Every 3 years, basically, you have to clean house and say, I brought in all my mices and I'm up to date on my account. And a few psukim later, in a completely separate issue, it says, not related to the Maisa, but there's a tzmichos there, so the Gemara learns that. The tzmichos, the shchita, the chsiv, the samach, the shachat. The chsiv, the shchita, the yaim, zivachem. So smicha and shchita are making a smach. We're making a I don't know if it's more of a smichus or a hakish. and by shchita it says b'yom zivchachem. L'tnufa d'chsib b'yom hanifa es ha'aymer. So hanifchem es ha'aymer. L'hagasha the iskesh l'tnufa d'chsib v'lakach ha'kayin. Hagasha is when after the kain takes it and touches it to the mizbeach. The iskesh l'tnufa d'chsib v'lakach ha'kayin miyada isha es minchas hakina es v'heinef v'hikrev. So v'heinef v'hikrev, tenufa is like hikrev is the hagasha. Hikrev is the hagasha it's referring to. Hikrev, it brings out to mizbeach, is the hagasha that's referring to. It's talking about a carbon mincha saita, or the malika, or the kamitza, or the haktara, or the hazaya, which is out of order from our Mishnah, which is very confusing. But the chsiv b'yayim tzavais esbnei Yisrael, this it's saying that all the prep, everything has to do with karbanis. That's what that pasuk is talking about. So anything that has to do with karbanis, the kamitza, the malika is only done by karbanis. If you do malika on a bird outside the not for a carbon, it is a treifa. And the kamitza is taking out the 3 scoops, the 3 fingers of what's it called, aktara, is throwing it on the mizbech. The azaya is spritzing the blood on the mizbech. All these things are included in this pasuk. Any prep, anything to do with the carbon, is Bayayim. Or Lashkay say to Atzi Taritai, Ksiv Hakava Asala Kayan, Vasala Hakayan Es Kala Tarazais, Ksiv Hasam Apia Tarashi Yerucha, Vala Mishpat, Vala Mishpat. So Ma Mishpat Bayayim, we had this right in the beginning, right? That David Melech wasn't allowed to do Mishpat by night, and Abigail gave him Taras for it. So Ma Mishpat Bayayim, Taira is also Bayayim, and we said and Taira. So it's, and this is called the Taira, so Taira is only Bayayim. Afkan Bayayim. It's also any of kapara. It doesn't not any. It says kapara. It says it's going to be a kapara for you, and kapara. So it's like kachim. So and we already had it just for the kachim previously. Now, why do we not make the deal from tahira samatzayra? I don't know, but we also have the word b'yayim over here. I'm sorry. We learned the Mishnah. Now it's funny. This is the only time the Gemara does not bring psukim. The psukim are brought down in this brisa, in this brisa or Mishnah in Menachos, but we don't have the psukim over here. And you bring that by the day, but the counting and the ktsira is by night. That's what we know. Very clear. Kasher kol hayayim. What's the riboy of the klal? To take off the spoons of frankincense, which no one knows what it is, but by the lechem apanim. And what are you coming to say? I'm a silak as hayishana shachar. It's sida as a chadasha arvis, which is not arvis after shkia, but it's arvis close to shkia. Em chachum, he didn't do anything wrong. Amana and mekayim with Hashem. It's machlokes over there in I think also Menachos Gada, but it's machlokes and the Rabbanan say that you have to have that they have to be switched right away. You can't leave the table empty from bread because it says Pnei Hashem tamid. So according to Rabbi Yossi, what does he do for Hashem Tamid? At night. That's it. He adds the word yellen. It shouldn't sleep over at night, but as long as you do it before the end of the day, you're good to go. And it is coming to La Fuke with the like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the Tanya, V'achlos abasa b'layla hazeh, Amar Elazar ben Azariah, Nemer kan b'layla hazeh, V'nemer la'alon b'avarti b'aretz Mitzrayim b'layla hazeh, by Marcus Becharis, I think. Bechara, yeah. Let's assume. Ma'alon ad chatzos, avkan ad chatzos. Hadran aloch ha'kar al-mafreya, Hadran Allah. Givaldik. That was very good. That was good timing.
Yeah.